The left-wing media are melting down about Donald Trump's plan to send the National Guard in to Washington, D.C., and they're making the exact same mistakes they always do. Let's take a look. After an alleged brutal assault in Washington, D.C. shook the country last week. I mean, just take a look at that photo. Donald Trump announced he was going to send the National Guard in to the nation's capital to restore order.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back.
That is a massive and rapid escalation of an issue. And the American people, particularly those in Washington, D.C., deserve a lot of answers and a lot of clarity about what this all precisely means. Trump had all the emotional language nailed about the move, deteriorating crime, taking back control of a city, but he was light on the very specific details you need when discussing major changes to law enforcement. So when Trump says this...
In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly.
There's a lot of questions. Will they be patrolling or investigating crime? What are they allowed to do? And more importantly, what are they not allowed to do? Now, those would have been great questions for the Democrats and the left-wing media to be asking this week, but I hate to shock you with this. They let their emotions get the better of them. They hate Donald Trump so much that they can never take him at face value. Everything Trump does is seen through a lens of assuming there are ulterior, sinister motives. If you think Trump is secretly plotting to take over the United States and unleash an authoritarian, fascist regime, it's going to poison how you interpret and analyze every story, including this one. One way the left are fighting against this is by saying the crime problem in DC is not as bad as Trump was saying and nowhere near the crisis that would justify a National Guard takeover. Have a look at this from CNN.
But contrary to what the president said today, even in 2023, DC did not have an all-time high in murder. It was way worse during the crack crisis of the 80s and early 90s. And more pressingly, Dana, the president was just flat wrong when he said it's getting worse now, not getting better. Crime in DC, including murder, has fallen sharply since that 2023 spike. It fell in 2024. It's fallen further in 2025.
Only 187 murders, hang the banner. But here's a bigger problem with what he just said. You would have seen in that graph the data is credited to the DC Metropolitan Police's figures. But as CNN's Scott Jennings points out, a senior member of the Metropolitan Police was placed on leave just last month for allegedly manipulating data to make it appear as if crime is going down.
It's not a safe place, and we can argue about statistics and numbers. There's a police commander right now on suspension because there's some allegation that the statistics have been altered. But we can argue about that all day long.
So the data from the police, it might be real, it might be not, but at the moment they are unusable in debate. Until we know the truth about what happened there and we have independent, verified, accurate data about whether or not crime is up or down in Washington, we can't be throwing around statistics from the DC police to support our points. Now, speaking of the police, Scott Jennings also pointed out that cops in DC, a group that definitely deserve to be heard in a debate about this, appear to be completely open to Trump's move.
I will just point out that the head of the D.C. Police Union, here's a direct quote, "We completely agree with the president that crime in the District of Columbia is out of control and something needs to be done with it." So it sounds like to me, among the rank and file, the president has some support from the cops for doing this today in Washington.
Now, the other way in which the left is attacking Trump on this is by saying that it's part of a plan to secretly install authoritarianism or get Epstein out of the news cycle. Here's a good compilation from MRC Newsbusters.
A relatively small crime problem is being used for specific authoritarian purposes. It's about federal overreach.
This is a power grab by a president.
He has always felt that American cities, especially those with large black populations like Washington, D.C., are crime-ridden.
There were lots of people yesterday saying, hey, is this a distraction? Is Trump trying to distract from the Epstein scandal?
I think he's trying to move the Epstein story off the front page.
A diversion from Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay, first off on the authoritarianism, are the radical lefts ever going to get sick of being wrong? All right, I've been in the game for a while. I think this marks the 2,458th time a move by Trump has either been fascism or the death of democracy. And guess what? America is neither fascist and it is not undemocratic. You'd think after being this consistently wrong, there would be some reluctance to hit the "this is fascism" button, but no, here we are again. So when this isn't a fascist overthrow of the American Capitol, the credibility of those media outlets is going to go down even further. And it will go down again next time, even further again. But to that other claim in that compilation, did Donald Trump do this just to get Epstein out of the news cycle? It would be bizarre if he did that, considering that Epstein was on its way out anyway.
Take a look here. Google searches for Epstein down 89% versus just 3 weeks ago, falling through the floor. It is no longer the top term searched alongside Donald Trump's name. That's been trading off between Taros and Vladimir Putin, with obviously the meeting coming up later this week. But at this particular point, the American people's interest in this story, it's quickly becoming something of a nothing burger.
So you have to ask, why would Donald Trump spend all this money, all this energy, all this political goodwill to achieve something that's already being achieved with no energy at all? Perhaps, maybe, just maybe, Donald Trump is tapping into concerns from the public and the police about the level of crime in America, and specifically Washington, D.C., and is doing something drastic to show he is taking the issue seriously. Democrats could face that in good faith and argue policy proposals and show they also care about those core issues. But no, they just can't help themselves.